Hey there, and welcome to what's usually my favorite part of the week, Ask Away with Coach MK. That we don't have a whole lot of questions tonight, which is fine. It's normal this time of year, August, this period. Not to say that it sucks, it's just slower. No one's focused on running. Everything that most people are thinking about in a normal year is what's going to happen in school. I'm a little bit nervous trying to get in those last little bits of enjoyment and vacation before school starts. Now we're not quite sure what's going to happen when school starts. And a whole lot of us are shouldering the weight of working from home, teaching from home. And if you saw my most recent Facebook post on my personal page, my middle child thinks that she goes to drinking school and is eager to tell everyone about it. And I'm like, that's right. I suck as a homeschool teacher. That's why I've never tried to do it. So if you feel like you're sucking at all this, I promise you're winning at life. You are not behind any of us. This is all sort of uncharted territory. When it comes to running, I finally had a good week of running myself, but I didn't do anything. I'm not even looking at Training Peaks anymore. It feels comforting to see that email at the top of my inbox first thing every morning because that feels normal. In a time when nothing else feels normal, it's nice to know that that is still happening and that's still there. It's a nice option. At the same time, I don't even want to look at it because I have no idea if I'm going to be able to run, when it's going to happen, how hot it's going to be when I do it. I will get back there eventually, but I'm not there yet. So if that's where you are, you ain't behind me. What matters is that we're having this conversation, you're getting this validation, and that you're surrounded by a community that's going to support you through all of it. So I tell you that to tell you this, there is so much I have not done. Coaches right now have not yet received the YouTube videos for the August workouts. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I have not had the strength to execute them. Every day I put on my little short shorts, which are getting tighter and tighter because ever since vacation, it's just been going one direction and not turning back. The stress level is not decreasing. And that's fine. It's fine. I bought bigger pants. They're really comfortable. I'm just at the point where I'm like, I could run more, I could wear, or I could buy bigger pants. Bigger pants are amazing and they're cozy. And you know what? I'm not going anywhere to be seen anyway. I'm really not. All my pretty clothes are going to be sitting there in my closet for a nice long time. I haven't worn anything that needed to be dry cleaned probably since February. Maybe even longer, to be honest. And that's okay too. It is totally fine. So normally the thing that would bother me about weight gain is that I can't fit into my favorite clothes. But I'm not wearing my favorite clothes. So I'm just wearing everything that is soft and oversized. And I just don't care if I have to wash it 5 or 6 times. And that way, if I get through a day where I haven't taken time for myself in the form of moving outside, if I have not had the emotional and physical energy to do it, I'm still making ways to get some self-care. I sincerely hope that you are too. That run on the plan is always an option. It's never a mandate. And if you are not doing the plan as written, honestly, I'm not going to tell you how to feel about the money you spend, but I certainly don't feel like compliance is necessary to derive the value in this program. It's about having that tether to something normal during a time that is anything but. To underscore that, let's talk about the workouts for this month that no one's going to do. Yay! Or maybe some of you will, and that's wonderful. But if you don't, no shade. This is probably going to be Dan. Tell him it's way too hot to run right now in Charleston. I feel you. It is too hot to run in Denver. Most days when I can get out the door, it's not till noon. And then I'm like, the sun like hurts my skin. I'm just, yeah, you're not doing the running right now either. It's okay. I appreciate you too. You know what? It's $1 a day, you guys. This program is $30 a month. It's not, I mean, some months you get a day free. Yay. So that's really for $1 a day. I again, just don't expect too much. I feel like we go out of our way to give you guys so much, but please don't be any harder on yourself than I would be on you. Please don't be any harder on yourself than I would be on me. I mean, of course, obviously I'm a small business owner and I would really love for you to stay here. At the same time though, if you are beating yourself up, if you're punishing yourself like, I don't deserve to be here because I'm not doing the workouts, feel like you're missing the point. It has never been about doing the workouts, even in a normal year. It really isn't. And let me tell you something. If this was a normal year, you know what would be going on right now? 2 things. Number one, you'd be signing up or freaking out that you signed up for a fall race because you knew that you don't do anything in August and you wanted to get on top of that by sort of forcing yourself to do something by picking a fall race that you don't care about to have an artificial goal to keep you going, swept up in this talk conversation about like, well, this is the marathon that I've done. And oh my God, it's got to be better than the last one. Making things up that you didn't care about when you signed up to justify staying in the game. It's the same cycle I see runners getting into every year. And I try to be really polite because I know that's my job. I'm supposed to not see it because if I call you out or address it, then I'm the bad guy. And it's the hardest thing about working with overachievers of all colors. Like this is not just a white woman thing, but I just happen to interact with a lot more white women. And it is a little bit maddening where it is there. And I get it. I'm a white woman too. In my professional life, in my personal life, there are consequences to being wrong. That one mistake you make will be held against you and used to justify that mediocre white dude getting the thing that you had earned. I get it. We're not allowed to make mistakes. I don't play that way. I have my own rules now that I have my own universe, and it's really kind of amazing. And I would encourage you, if no other part of your life, treat this like the special thing that it actually is, rather than like absolutely everywhere else. But this is congratulations. You know what? This is the first August where you can actually have August. You're not sucked into that cycle of trying to justify all these long runs in the heat that you don't want to do for a race that you don't care about and probably don't really want to run anyway, because what you're really worried about are those mean people in your run group that, you know, you want to beat them because they're awful, but that's your only motivation, and that's really not a good one. You want to feel like you belong in a place that doesn't treat you like you belong. Congratulations. This is the first year you have been here with none of that toxicity around you, with none of that going on. And one of psychiatrists that I follow on Instagram, of all things, Gabor Mate, who's a specialist in addiction, says that the traumatized mind does not recognize the absence of chaos. So they will go to create the chaos to feel quote unquote normal. They don't understand what peace is. So I'm going to beg you, don't go out seeking the chaos that you usually feel, that conflict that you think drives you. This is a year where you can just like make it as comfortable as you want to be. And I'm talking about the schedule. I'm talking about the running, and I'm talking about your pants. We tell you, soft waist. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to go back to hard ones again. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so I tell you all that to tell you that you are loved, if you feel seen. Amazing. And thank you, Kristen. That's a really sweet comment. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Just remember, it's not about what you do. It's about how you feel on a day-to-day basis. And I hope you're giving yourself credit for what you are doing, for what you have survived. We have survived 62% of this year so far, you guys. That is a big deal. 2020 has been terrible, at least for me. If it's been better for you, tell me about it. Some things have been wonderful, but other things have been like, I didn't see this coming. I've somehow joined the resistance. I didn't expect that this year. I mean, I'm the person with a big mouth and big opinions who is strong-willed, which means I can't be scared into submission by those in power. So I'm excluded from the table as a warning sign to everyone around. And my friends know this. They distance themselves from me when I'm being MK and talk to me as though like, oh, you know, like I just don't make sure none of this falls on me, because they don't want to lose their seat at the table. And I get that. I'm not here to ruin it for everybody else, but I'm also done trying to play that game where silence protects anyone. It's all a game of how much can you take and not talk about. And that perpetuates the system. It doesn't bust it. And I've never seen that more clearly than I do right now in the middle of this horrifying year where I've spent more time wearing a gas mask and yelling downtown than I have done running or kissing my children or snuggling with my husband even. It's just been, I never would have predicted that. But the good thing to come out of that, the beauty of it, in a time when I don't have a whole lot of other things really clamoring for my attention or a real deterrent to shutting my mouth, I can be 100% myself, and I haven't been punished for it, which I can't tell you what a beautiful thing that is. I've made better friends than I've ever had in my life. People I have only known a short period of time through incredible intensity. People have had my back in situations where having my back did not help them. It did not make them look good. They had nothing to gain from it, but I was there, they were there, and they weren't going to back off. I have never ever had that in my life before, other than maybe when I started this company, and I'm grateful to each and every one of you. You'll never be forgotten. At the same time, I just can't stop thinking about, yes, it's a hard year, but from this hardship has come real beauty. It wasn't the beauty I would have asked for, but as usual, I wasn't thinking big enough. If any of that resonates, if you're not quite sure where the beauty is, throw it in the chat. Let's have a conversation. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of questions tonight, so I was going to give you guys some thoughts. I was going to give you an introduction to the workouts that you're not going to do for August, and that's okay. We can just talk about them and laugh over a glass of wine if you want. And then I was going to see if anybody wanted to chat, and then I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do, y'all. I'm probably going to fall asleep on the couch eating crackers in my big comfy pants, because that sounds like really great self-care right now. Cool. All right. If you're having trouble finding the wins, that's what I'm here for. Don't forget, that's part of what you're paying $1 a day for. Don't forget to throw something in there and talk to me, and we'll talk. If you can't find the wins, I sure can. So August, let's pull that up. So when I made this, remember, I got all excited back in December, and I was going to plan the whole year out so I'd be ahead of the game. Well, I couldn't see where this year was going to take me, much less you. This was supposed to be the Olympics. This is an Olympic year, and the Olympics have been postponed due to COVID. And part of something I would not have been talking about if, the Olympics hadn't been moved is that I think they're racist. I mean, you guys have no idea how much I don't say on a regular basis, because it's not popular, it's not cool, and it requires you to think, to think critically or analytically to get to where I am. Or to see, here's something ugly. Racist is an ugly word. It is an ugly, ugly word. No one wants to be one. I mean, if you do, but for the most part, even that's the problem with the moderate people. If you've heard that said, like, the moderate white will be the end of us. That was a quote from Martin Luther King. It's true. It's the person who spends more time trying to prove they're not a racist than furthering the cause and helping and seeing the benefits we get from the system, rather than trying to dismantle it to people. They're trying to pretend everything's okay. That's how problematic that is. And that's what goes on with the Olympics, right? Right now, the Olympics, and I cleared this with an Olympic athlete before I said it this morning, they're racist. And I'm going to say that directly. Racist, racist, racist is one of the reasons why I do not care to train athletes in pipeline, in the development pipeline. People who think that every once in a while, if somebody really wants to qualify for the trials on a case-by-case basis, sure, I'd take them on. If they're in it, and I feel like it's a good match. I like people that are sort of outside the curve that would not be accepted by the traditional coaches. Then there'd probably be a place for you with me if I just wanted to have some fun. But yeah, so why are the Olympics racist? When you take a look at the number of Olympic athletes, and you take a look at how much the highest paid earn, and you take a look at the demographics, none of which I have here, you're going to have to do that one, y'all. It's Google. It's not hard to find. WADA, the World Anti-Doping Administration, not doing its job effectively across the board in every country, equally delivering sanctions, equally delivering testing. And I get it. It's really hard to do. It's complicated and expensive, but you know what? So is the Olympics. Like, we shouldn't be doing them if we can't. Either we make doping okay, and we try to make sure that the athletes are protected, or we say it's out, and we spend all of our time and resources trying to keep it out. What we've got right now is a system of selective finding that disproportionately, like so many other things in this world, impacts people of color. So think about that. Some of the strongest, most badass people on this planet that live in our country right now are getting cheated out of lifetime earnings, because you will never be worth more than you are in the moment that you win the Olympics, and you will never have more exposure than you will in that moment. And when you're beat by a cheater, like so many were in Russia, when you're beat by a cheater, like so many are right now, because it's ongoing and it's pervasive and it's so many countries, you have to wonder, when we watch the Olympics, what is it we are supporting? And I cringe. When Rio, I said this too, I cringe when I watch it. I watched it for Shalane. I watched it for Des. I watched it for individuals. Because by putting our eyes on them, Deanna Price, by putting our eyes on them, we are enhancing their personal brand and their bankability to sponsors. I cringe that I have to do that on the Olympic platform. So when I do, they are getting paid no matter how horribly they act, they being the Olympic Committee. So, hate the Olympics, always have. And there's never been a year where I could have said that out loud without people telling me I was un-American. Fuck you, Olympic Committee. Fuck you for sending your crappy little messages saying Black Lives Matter while continuing your sanctions against Gwen Berry. Fuck you for mistreating Tiana Bartoletta, who, by the way, is a national damn treasure and really should be paid much more than she is. Do you have any idea how hard it is to do a triple jump? Think about all the times I've made you like hop on one leg or jump up and down or do twitch jumps. Think about how all the times you've gotten those workouts and you've complained about how hard they are and they get your heart rate up. Think about having to sprint and then do 3 long jumps in a row, keeping that momentum going, the strength required. It's ungodly. It's incredible. I can't even imagine it. And God, I don't want to try. And she does it better than anybody else in the world. And she doesn't have enough sponsorship. She does not have enough support. I guess it isn't cool enough. And there's just not a lot out there. We don't use this platform to benefit the athletes. And we're even in the existing system. And by not keeping the cheaters out, like we're lucky in a couple of the sports, the divisions that I've mentioned, we are not aware of rampant cheaters yet. So that's why the Olympics are racist. It disproportionately, as like so much else in this world, impacts people of color. So if the Olympics were happening this year, I'd pretend to be really excited about it because so many are, because it's in Japan and I used to live there and a lot of people like Japan, and the marathon was going to be held in Sapporo, which makes really good beer. But now I can tell you exactly what I think, which is that the Olympics are racist. So if you're not doing these workouts, don't worry. But if you do, I want you to remember what I said. This is the full MK experience, y'all. The Olympics are racist. So I called this month Bust Out August, because the Olympics are supposed to be happening. We're going to bust it all out just like those Olympic athletes do, and WADA does not. So in Maintain, you've got 2 workouts, Sugoi Sapporo, which is named after the beer, and the city where the marathon was supposed to be held, around a 5-kilometer block, which sounds absolutely horrifying. I bet all the marathoners are thanking their lucky stars they didn't have to do that this year. Oh my gosh, Sapporo is one thing. That particular course in Sapporo. Ugh. Anyway, and then the second being, and so Sugoi Sapporo is a cut down run, nothing hard, nothing too fast, because again, just trying to keep you moving in August, which is usually the hottest month of the year in most places. It's the most humid month of the year. It's the month when a lot of people are taking vacation anyway. And I'm just really glad I'm not having to talk to anybody about like, how am I supposed to balance my marathon training? I've got a vacation that's going to take 2 weeks out and I don't like to run during my vacation. I just want to thank the universe for that. This is the first year ever in coaching that I've not had to have that conversation with somebody. Like, you didn't recognize this before you signed up for that marathon plan. And why is this my problem? Well, I mean, if you can't think this plan doesn't work, I don't have to hear that this year. And could not be more grateful, but not quite as grateful as any Olympic athlete that doesn't have to run that course in Sapporo. So that's the first workout. The second is called Kawaii Kyoto. Kawaii means cute in Japanese. It's like what girls say when they're making the face kawaii when they're taking pictures and doing the Hello Kitty signs. And it's cruise intervals. And you know what? Cruise intervals are easy and they're cute. And it's, is this going to make you better or stronger? No. But you know what? Nothing really will in August, because it's the most difficult and unfocused month of the year. If you are thinking critically and analytically about what you need on a day-to-day basis, then you are, I promise, winning at life, whether or not you do any of these workouts. I mean it. And if you're not doing them, you're by no means behind. Join me on the couch for some birthday cake ice cream. Oh, that stuff is amazing. I've never eaten so much of it in my life. Birthday cake ice cream and a glass of wine. In Rebuild, we've got a workout that I very subtly called They All Dope. Believe it or not, when I wrote this, I was not intending to go full MK on it, but I was just going to introduce that awkward concept, like, everybody dopes. Go back and watch the Lance Armstrong documentary. Now, granted, you can talk about how awful he is and how he ruined the sport, but I promise you, as someone with a modicum of manager training, it takes more than one bad apple to have a system. He really isn't that powerful. He was pretty powerful, but that's a system of non-compliance. There were a whole lot of people looking the other way, not just for him, but the whole team and all these athletes. It took a lot to let Lance Armstrong dope that much for that long, precisely because a whole lot of people wanted to win. So is WADA, these anti-doping organizations, are they here to really weed out doping or just to make people feel better about the event? It became quite clear from watching the most recent documentary on ESPN that it is the latter. It just don't get caught. And once you do, we're going to distance ourselves as much as possible, which frankly is the American way. Yay, us. So with that, I call it They All Dope. It's a combo workout targeting strength. Don't forget the most important aspect here is the recovery, meaning that's those few seconds that you take to catch your breath after doing like a jumping jack. That with your heart rate of recovery, that is the most important part of the workout because that is where the repair is happening. That is where the strength comes from. That is the part, that is the time where your body is metabolizing oxygen at its most efficiently. So don't worry about if you need 20 seconds or 2 minutes to catch your breath. I don't care. Get what you need because that is where the magic is happening. And if you deprive yourself of that, then you're depriving yourself of all the gains that you're going to be getting out of this workout. So think about what you need and make sure that you get it. Put a note in there, cheaters never win. There are no shortcuts to fitness. And you know what? That's true. Because here's the other thing to remember about doping. It's not like they doped instead of working out. They doped so they could work out harder. It presses, some would argue that's exactly what professional athletes should be doing. It presses the physiological boundaries. And one could easily make the argument that that's how dedicated they were. And that's an amazing thing. I'm never going to be against the athletes. I'm against the system that creates these incentives to do terrible things. I'm not here to demonize Lance Armstrong, except for the way he treated, women publicly. That was not awesome. But what I will say about the doping is everything about the institutions that created it, sanctioned it, looked the other way, banked off of him, profited off of him, and then ran away the second it all came tumbling down when he got a little too greedy, quite frankly. All of that's garbage. All of that's trash. But it's easy to hide when the world is looking at the most famous triathlete on the planet who had done quite a lot for the sport before he came tumbling down. Cheaters never win. The institutions who look the other way do. Think about that. And if you can, find an Olympic athlete who is not going to be making any money this year, who is not going to be on a national platform. Maybe some like Tiana Bartoletta. If you do not follow her blog, please follow her blog. If you do not follow her on Twitter, please follow her on Twitter. I love everything she writes. You can usually find her work in my weekly Nuzzle newsletter. I promise you, all of these athletes are trying to build a brand for themselves in the unlikely event, or for some, maybe the likely event. Some, like Tiana, are excited to have a whole nother year to prepare because they weren't quite ready for the trials. Others are devastated because they're not sure they're going to be able to sustain this for a whole nother year and be fit enough to do well at the trials. I'm not sure which is more devastating, but I go find an athlete who is impacted by this and find some way to support them, either with your eyes, your likes, your clicks, or your dollars. Tiana has a book club. I'm a part of it. She has a brunch club. I'm part of it. There are lots of different ways to interact with these people. Remember that they're amazing people doing extraordinary things, but they are also people and they need your support just like a whole lot of other people do right now. So that is everything I have to say about the racist Olympics and the joke that we all pretend is true every 4 years. The lie we all like to believe. Sorry. Yay, that sounds lovely. I'm assuming you mean my pants and not the Olympics. The only good thing about August is close to October. This is true, especially now. We're not quite sure when school's going to start. I mean, it's working for me because my husband's at home and they're not traveling. So we don't know when school's going to start. It means we don't know when Alex is going to have to travel again. I don't know anyone else who's in as good a position as I am right now, though. And so I recognize that privilege. I love it. I'm embracing it. I'm enjoying every second because I don't know how long I'm going to have it. But man, no one's got it easy right now. Some have it a heck of a lot harder than others. And water jogging, oh my God, that's amazing. Where do you water jog? It is so hard to swim here in Denver. I mean, I could fill a paddling pool in the backyard, but then I usually want to, eat ice cream and do really stupid things in it. So if you got a place to water jog, tell me about that. The last time I made efforts to go water jogging, did not go well. It was when I was pregnant. And then I cried when I couldn't get the water belt on anymore. I was like, fuck this. So that's how my life goes. So if we don't have any questions, I'm going to move on to the deep thought of the week, because the Olympics are racist. You don't have to think real deeply to get there. You just have to want to be able to hear the word racist and stay in the broadcast. See, like, boy, MK's off the chains tonight. Yep, been a rough week. I'm a little stressed. Very stressed. I own it. I'm not okay, and I kind of like it. So the story that I want to tell as we move out of here, your daughter has a big pool. That's amazing. I need a daughter with a big pool. Cheyenne is going to have to work it. I'm just kidding. Cheyenne's amazing. She'll probably have a big pool. That girl will do anything I asked her to do. So I have to be so careful what I ask her to do. So the story I want to tell tonight is about it starts with my lovely husband. My lovely husband, who I absolutely adore. Wasn't real woke when we got married. Like, he wasn't very awake to the female experience, and trying to explain it rarely worked. It took a while for him to see how differently I was treated in the workplace, or to take his suggestions, implement them, and fail before he truly understood how differently I was treated. I can be right, but I'm still MK, and I'm still hard to control, and I'm still a liability. I'm a threat to mediocre people who know I can see through them. So they're all just hoping that it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get all this conspiracy theory on it, but I ran into that over and over and over in my professional career. So when he was tasked with, in the Me Too era, writing a piece about sexual harassment in the industry that he covers, oil and gas is rampant and notorious and terrible, and I do not understand why any woman would want to work in that environment, but a lot do, and those who do pay a price. And he wanted to write about that price and how much it is actually costing in lost economic value to oil companies right now. It was really well written. I looked at him and I said, this is a career limiting thing. You need to get several women to sign off on it. More women more senior than you that know the lay of the land. I know you're a dude, but you're also a dude trying to rise. You need to find a woman who's played this system to her advantage and wants to advance this. And that last part is the hardest part for a lot of people to get, because you see, my husband has never needed anyone to advocate for him. He's always been able to effectively advocate for himself. I have not. I've had to learn how to charm the people around me to get them on my side, so that when things go badly, they don't totally abandon me. They don't necessarily stay by my side. They don't want to take this with me, but to make sure they don't abandon me afterwards, it can at least subtly help me pick up the pieces later in a way that makes them look good. I had to do a lot of that, almost underhanded. Underhanded sounds shady. I had to be real. I had to learn how to maneuver in ways that could not be seen. And I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. Every woman who's wanted to climb a corporate ladder and make a name for herself, and any woman with a modicum of ambition, has had to learn how to do that same dance. Some are better than others. So when he wrote this, I read this piece, and he was like, and he got the buy-in, he did what I asked, and then it went to the editor of the company, who gutted it. And this was a woman too. And he was really upset about this. This person had taken out all of the parts that made this op-ed relevant. And he really he was angry. And I said, okay. He's like, well, it's not what I wanted. It's not my words. And I'm like, oh, this must be nice. I said, look, what you need to hear right now is you're trying to advocate for women. So you need to go ask the women above you how they would like you to advocate for them. Ask them how to navigate this and how to respond, and let them lead you. Because if you're advocating for another person, it's not about what you want. It's about what they need to get and whether or not this is going to work. Let them lead. And that was hard. It was a difficult conversation. It was hard for him to hear, but at the end, bless him, he did it, and it worked out. And everyone around, and now he's a superstar. All the women around him responded well to that. So, oh my God, and Kay is talking again about words and racism. She's off the chart. She needs sleep. What does this have to do with running, MK? Two things. Let's make sure I have your attention. One of the hardest things a person will ever do is take action on behalf of someone else and let that person lead in the process. Does that sound familiar? If you've been training with me for a while, it should. Because this is a warning that I give all people who want to pace their friends in race situations. I warn all of my runners as well about pacers who mean well, but what they've been tasked with doing is not natural or instinctual, just like advocating for another person and letting them lead you while you do it. Running more slowly than you want to go in any given moment is the hardest thing you will ever do. And in this situation, where you're pacing a friend in a race, you're going to forget this isn't your race. It's theirs. And they got to lead, even if you're pacing. Awkward, right? It's not your race. It's not your day. You go with the flow that they set to help them reach a goal. It's easy to say. It's really hard to do. I know this because it's hard to do in training runs too. Second, if you're not running right now because you are not inspired or motivated, I get that. I really do. But I beg you to be careful about how you talk about it and how you think about it, because how you talk about things matters. There are tons of people right now who would love to go on a run, but just can't on their own. Now, stop. Before the guilt sets in, I'm not trying to shame you. I'm trying to give you some perspective. I'm trying to reframe it and give you a different way to look at this. Right now, with no races on the calendar, there's never been a better time to practice running with other people and letting them lead. Achilles International has chapters all over the place, connecting runners with guides. If you can't run for you, could you get motivated to run with someone else? Could you get motivated to assist with someone else's run? Great example. One of my running buddies is blind. I have been too busy and too absent to be the help that I could have been earlier in the year. And now his guide dog has 2 ruptured discs. He literally cannot run without another person. And I wish I could be there more for him, but I'm already stretched too thin as it is. So in a time when a lot of people are running for self-care, the most vulnerable around us need a little bit more care that they're just not getting in a time of budget cuts and nonprofit cuts and cuts that impact them in ways that we can only begin to understand. Not, again, don't make this about you and any guilt that you feel about not feeling this, but this is something you can do, and it can benefit you too. These people might never have another opportunity like this, a fall racing season where they aren't taking away from other people's training, where they're not inconveniencing anyone by saying, hey, could you take me out today? I really just need to leave the house. I don't care what pace we go. It takes time and skill and practice to get it right and to learn the patience required to be really good at this. But here's the skill. The skill is going to work for you. You're going to learn pacing that benefits you in race situations. When races are back on the calendar, you'll learn patience, which is helpful in executing your strategy in races. And if you're conflicted about the protest but really want to do something for your community, donate to your local bond fund. Here it's the Colorado Freedom Fund. Get out there and buddy up with an Achilles runner. Listen to their stories. 2 runs and you'll be ready to protest the way we treat our most vulnerable citizens in this country. And when you do, we'll have a place for you when you're ready. At least we specifically will with Walla Moms here in Denver, which I am one of the admins for. I'm not a leader. I'm an admin trying to corral all of that enthusiasm and make sure that it is directed efficiently and effectively so that it doesn't trample an already traumatized community. Another community that can only benefit from your presence. If you really want to show up somewhere and not be told how to do it, it's Achilles International. Go find a buddy. If you can't get motivated for you, go get motivated for them, because there are a couple of weeks earlier in the year where the only time I got out the door during the week was to run with Carrie. And maybe that would be the inspiration, the motivation, or the thing on the calendar that you look forward to right now without a race on the calendar. There are no easy answers anywhere, but there are solutions. It might not be exactly what you want, but you might get what you need. Okay, that's really all I had to say. Any comments, any questions? Now would be a really great time to throw them in. I don't see any. If there's nothing else to say or do, then just remember that you're coached and you're loved. And even if you don't feel like it right now, you're winning at life, because Chani Nichols on Twitter says that Chani Nichols is the astrologer that I like so much. She says, if you think 2020 is bad, wait for 2021. I'm not ready for that. Well, we've also been advised that whatever it is we're doing right now, and now it's not the time to back off. Now it's the time to double down. So double down on the soft pants. Double down on the self-care. Double down on not ways to manipulate yourself, but on the things that inspire you to move, the things that get you excited. I don't really care what those things are. Y'all know by now. And if you don't, that's on you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge your choices. I'm not going to judge what motivates. All I'm going to do is challenge you. If I think that thing that you think is good for you is actually bad, then yeah, I'm going to say it. But that's not because I mean and I hate you. Quite the opposite. It's because I could not possibly care more. And there might not be anyone else in your life that cares to say these things, because I'm invested in your long-term development, in your long-term happiness. And I'd rather be better than right, even if you don't want the same. Have an awesome week. I'm here, I'm around if you need me somewhere, someplace, even if I'm not responding to my phone right now, which gets close to, I mean, I'm going to have to get a new phone, you guys. I mean, before you laugh about the BlackBerry, you're welcome, Lee Adcock. Before you laugh at me about the BlackBerry, which yes, I still have a BlackBerry, because why? The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Right, Iris? If you're watching. It's been a joke with some of my protest buddies, and I think it's apt. But yeah, I'm getting so many more notifications than my BlackBerry was ever meant to handle at the moment. And it shuts down and restarts multiple times during the day. So I've had to mute a lot of notifications. So I'm here, and if you're going to hear from me at least once a day. If you don't hear from me as immediately as usual, that's why, because of all the things that are ceasing to function right now. My phone is at the top of that list, but that might not be a bad thing. Just saying. Either way, have an awesome week, everyone. Thank you for showing up. Whoops.